Hey, good morning. I wanted to just see if I could put together a short video documenting or talking about my experience and what I did installing the Auto Cool Guy HF-125 in my 1990 Jaguar XJS V12 5.3. I converted from the mechanical fans to electronic cooling fans. And as promised, Daryl, who's been amazing and accessible in this process, I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience uh, in installing the fans. One, this is the set of instructions that come, and there are a couple more pages too, that detail and talk about the process of installing these fans. For me, a guy that cringes when it comes to dealing with electrical stuff, it was really helpful to have a set of instructions with photos, with pictures that helped me out. Another thing that I want to talk about just for 2 seconds, and this isn't about product placement. This is just me, a guy who works on the side of the street. Um, I picked this up about 4 months ago. It's a portable soldering iron, and it works great. It's called Lexivon. There are a couple different sets that come, but it's been bulletproof, and it just basically you just have to get some butane and you can fill it up. So I wanted to talk about, these are some of my parts that are still waiting to go in. This is some duct work from inside of the dash, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. I still have some tidying up to do. This is my 1990 Jaguar XJS. As you can see, I work on the side of the road, and I want to talk a little bit about, one, why I did this. I guess the reason that I did this is I live in New York City, and it was an incredibly hot summer, and this is my third or fourth summer with this car. And what was happening was I would go, if I was driving out in the country or on open highway when I had open road in front of me, the cooling system was healthy, and it would keep the car. My needle would be just, if you're familiar with the XJS, my needle would be just below the N, and it would stay there, no matter how hot it got, as long as I was moving. But in New York City, inevitably, there's bumper to bumper traffic, and you end up sitting on 110-degree pavement for long periods of time, and the mechanical fan was just working as fast as the engine was spinning. I think my clutch was healthy. Still, I would watch the needle. I would be doing 80 and then get into coming back from the beach, or from the beach, and I would get stuck in traffic, and I would watch the needle go above N and then keep climbing slowly above N, and then it would be somewhere in the middle between the N and the H, and hot, and I would just be at the edge of my seat. There are a ton of hoses, coolant hoses in the XJS. There are stories about dropped valve seats, and then what do you do on a V12 with a dropped valve seat? Getting the heads off is a struggle just in itself. So I wrote it on the forum, and people were like, "Hey, everything's going to be okay. Don't worry about it." But I just knew that city driving, it was going to prove to be very difficult. So I did a couple things. One is I tried to use a controller from another company. I won't name it, but it failed. It failed immediately. There was a little sensor that you press onto it had 3M tape. You press it onto the radiator, and that tries to deal with the pulse width modulation thing. And it ended up, the sensor got wet, and things went south. The fans came on full blast, and I had to basically cut this thing out of the system to get the fans to turn off. Then I went and I installed a relay to control the larger fan. I'll talk about the fans more in a bit. And what was happening, the smaller fan, the 12-inch fan, I wired directly to the ignition source, and so when the key was on, the small fan was on full blast, and the large fan was connected to the OE setup, which is a little, you can see it down there, a little set of prongs that come off the front. It's a temperature switch that comes off the front of the water pump. that sends a signal to a relay here to that the temperature is sufficient to turn the fans on. So the large fan, my voltage was already a little bit low, not well lower than usual, just with the small fan running. And then when the large fan kicked on, huge current draw, and it would, you know, bring my voltage down to 12.5, and as the fan ran, it would slowly recover. And when it cooled down, when it cooled the car down, cooled things down, it would shut off completely, and then bounce back on, and then shut off completely, and bounce back on. And knowing the conditions here, bumper to bumper traffic, these shadows are killing me. It just wasn't going to do. It was very hard on the electrical system and whatnot. So I wrote back onto the forums, Jaguar forums. The reason that I can even own this car is thanks to the guys on Jaguar forums. I went and got the notion of something that I had already seen, but it was the Auto Cool guy. And working with Auto Cool guy, it ended up being the HF-125. It's a pulse width modulation system. I have two small fans, one 16-inch. I don't know the models numbers exactly. Maybe the sun is not helping me here. Those are that's the model of one fan. I guess if you write down in the comments and you ask me, I can give you specifics on both fans. But the way that it works is that down there, maybe you can see it, maybe you can't, but down in the bottom corner of the radiator is the outlet port. There's a big fat, almost 2-inch hose, over 2 inches I think, that runs off the bottom of the radiator and up to the water pump. The Auto Cool guy has a sensor that I think that I'm going to change down the line, and if I can get a bung for the sensor port in the front of the water pump, I will get a bung and then use Auto Cool guys. I think it's a 3/8 NPT sensor that will screw right in and be in the water stream. The one that I have now is it's a cuff, basically a brass moon-shaped thin sensor that fits right under the radiator hose and is in contact with the outlet port on the radiator. And it's a 2-wire sensor. The wire I ran up this way with the power negative and positive for both fans, and then ran it around this way under and into the firewall here. So what I have coming in and out of here, again, the sun is not my friend, the shadows, but I have the 2 sensor wires. The positive is coming off of the positive post on the passenger side, and runs to power the fans. Originally I had the post, I was using the post on the left hand or driver's side, and what I found was that sharing that post with the fans, it also shared it with what was going on behind the dash, and weird things started happening inside of the car on the console. So I switched it over to this side. Also, there's this electromagnetic interference that comes with 7,000 pulses that run the fans, and I still have to deal with that. I'm going to get some braided shielding to go over the negative side. So anyways, I went into the firewall here. There's the negative from the fans going into the firewall, and then a negative coming back out. That's grounded right here. Oh, shadows. Right here on the chassis firewall, there's a OEM ground post here that I used. I wish that I'm a little bit proud of them, because I hadn't used them before, and when I went and they were just crystal clean and 30-something years covered with these little plastic nuts. I took them off and I used these as a ground for the controller. So I scratched my head and I thought, and I wondered, where do I put this controller? I didn't want to put it under the engine bay, because the the temperatures under the engine bay in a V12 are just incredible, and they will destroy things. And I got that clearly stated from the guru on Jaguar forums in the X27 area of the Jaguar forums to not put it in the engine bay. And so I scratched my head and I thought, where can I put this? I didn't want to run long stretches of 10 gauge wire. And so what I did was I removed the glove compartment. I thought, I removed the glove compartment and I decided that I was going to put it here in this space where the glove box goes. Admittedly, I'm going to have to either do some serious surgery on the glove box and get it placed to place it back in here. But the only thing I really use in here is sunglasses and my registration. I don't use the glove box a lot, so I think that I can deal. But at the same time, I'm thinking that I'm going to undo this and redo it. There's a OEM metal plate that hangs out back here full time. It bolts to the blower motor, and what I did was I removed the plate, flipped it around completely, and bolted it back in with the OE holes back to the blower. And then I think I made a mistake. I used some 3M tape to secure the controller to the plate, and then I used 2 screws, self-tapping screws, to secure the controller beyond that, secure the controller to the plate. The thing is, now I'm looking at it and I'm thinking that I could flip this thing back around, remount the controller so it's way back there in the corner where it was initially. The plate and the controller now shares the bulb failure sensors, the breaker for the windows. It's a cylinder kind of, I don't know what goes on inside of it, but it deals with the coolant temperatures and stuff like that. And then there was one other relay that now is kind of hanging free. I'm gonna put that up and neaten things up somewhere. But I think that what I'm gonna do, I don't want to use the 3M tape because I want to use that plate as a heat sink. I also want to install a CPU fan, a little 2x2 CPU fan that will run to cool this thing. It does get warm, I want to say, and Daryl assured me that the transistors, I think he said, inside firing to run the fans generate heat. So I want to try to, I think that the 3M pads are insulating rather than allowing heat to transfer through the plate and whatnot. So I gotta go back in. Anyways, Daryl, if you're listening, the only thing that I want to point out is that the spaces where you bolt down or screw down the low voltage controls and the sensor wire here are a little bit too small. I got the smallest eyelets that I could find, and I put the eyelets onto the wires, and then I went to put the eyelets onto these posts. But even the smallest eyelets that I could find, I was having a difficult time getting the eyelets to snug down through the in the space provided. I think that if you made them a little bit wider, if you could, it would be good. I ended up cutting the eyelets in half, getting them under the screws and then screwing them down so it's nice and snug and secure. But anyways, everything's nicely labeled, as you can see. I have, the only thing that I have left is the AC, which I don't even get me started on my issues with my AC system. And I have the 1 amp fuse, 2 amp fuse here. I also have to connect the failsafe. It's just the toggle switch that's to ground, and whenever that toggle switch is grounded, the fans will go on full blast. So that's a nice amount of control, backup, worry, to ease my worries. I'm a little bit of a worrier, as been pointed out on Jaguar forums. So the ductwork that I pointed out that's sitting over there on the ground, the only thing, what I lost here with the way that this is set up now, I might be able to get it back if I flip this around, is some ductwork. It came off of, it shared a port off the back of the defrost port and came over to the vent here. I removed that. I drive with the top down most only, and I wasn't too sad to see that go. What I did was I plugged up the hole that was created by removing that ductwork with a little bit of foam, and my defrost works better than it did before. I got a trickle of air out of this whether I was using heat defrost or AC before, so I'm not too sad to see that go. What else is there to say? My voltage, resting is at 12.3. If I start the car is kind of cool, so the fans aren't going to come on. Maybe they'll come on by the time I finish this video. I was amazed to see that the fans would come on. Literally, you can watch them come on, and the fans would move an inch at a time as the temperature rose. I have seen the fans run full blast, and I think that it takes away about a half a volt from my overall running voltage. I see 4.2 here now. What I've seen is about I see 14.1, 14.2, which is what I always had. This is my little cheap voltage gizmo. The temperature, I'm not going to be able to do it because of the sun, is right above C. I don't want to make this video too long, but I hope that I can keep it on until the fans come on. Maybe if I give it a little bit of juice. All to say, I've been nothing but pleased with the auto cool guy thing. I have experienced a little bit of, and he predicted it, a little bit of electromagnetic interference. And I guess I should say that, in the Jaguar XJS, the crank position sensor, which I think generates its own electricity, lives less than 10 inches away down in there from the motors of the fans. And so when they really get kicking and they get going, there's a lot of electromagnetic interference going on. There's a lot of static going on in here. So what I think I'm going to have to do is, the fans come on yet? What I think I'm going to have to do is like I said, I'm going to shield that wire. There's also a big old capacitor that is provided in the kit. See if I can get my hands on it real quick. Here, that he provides. This is a post that I've started to try to set up, and maybe I'll put it together. That is supposed to also kind of quiet some of that noise. So between this and the shielded wire, I think that I'll be all right. So the car is cold now. Fans are still not on. But what I see is they just kind of gently come on. Also, when the car is hot and I go and I turn things off, the fans run, I think as designed by Daryl, to cycle for maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes, and then the fans go off too. They go, if they're running full blast, you turn off the car, they'll slow down just a little bit, but run for 3 minutes or 3 or 4 minutes. It doesn't. I was very happy to see it didn't have any ill effects on the battery, and I don't know, things are good. So if there's anything that you have questions, I don't know if I said I want to try to eliminate all of these, so I'm going to go when everything's said and done. I'm going to, especially when I get the sleeving, the copper braid, I'm going to remove these plugs. There's 2 of them. And I just want it all hardwired. I'll solder them in, and if I ever have to take them out, I'll just cut the wire and resolder them, thanks to my cool, handy-dandy soldering tool over there. It's not really such a problem and a worry anymore. Yeah, so things are good. Oh, wait, there goes the fans. I wish I could get them, so they're coming on. I can't get a good photo. Yep, there we go. They're just coming on. Maybe I'll wait a little bit longer until the engine heats up, and then I can show you what it's like when I shut the engine off. But that's not necessary. I can just explain. It works good. I turn the car off. The fans will run for 2 or 3 minutes, and then they'll cycle off and turn off. A beautiful thing. So, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything that you think that I missed, just write it, bleep bloop it, as the Vice Grip Garage dude says, down in the comments section. I'm going to post this a little bit later today, and then just tell me what you think. Yeah, this is Auto Cool Guy, HF-125, pulse width modulation control in the 1990 Jaguar XJS V12 5.3 convertible. Hope all's, hey, what's up, man? How are you? Hope all's well, and I hope this helps somebody. Take care.